It's time to discuss the most deserving and undeserving contenders and fighters in the UFC. There's been a lot of yapping recently about guys, about title shots, and I couldn't disagree more with some of the guys that are yapping for title shots, and some guys that aren't yapping deserve title shots. So I want to go through the list today and talk about fighters who have earned a title shot, fighters that should get a ranked opponent next, fighters that absolutely do not deserve a title shot, sit down, little bro, and fighters that need to fight down the rankings because they've been handed enough opportunities, little bro. It's time to fight down the rankings and hold your spot. So with that out of the way, I want to get right into the video. Let's start off with Movsar Evloev. Listen, I think Movsar has earned his shot at the featherweight title at this point. He's 9-0 in the UFC. All decisions, granted, and he only has 9 fights in 6 years. I'm a high critic of Movsar Evloev. He's not my favorite fighter, but at the end of the day, when you look at the landscape of featherweight, he obviously deserves the next title shot against Volkanovski. And also, I think it's a very winnable fight for Volkanovski, although I probably would be nervous for Volk in that fight. But Movsar is 9-0 in the UFC. He's undefeated. He's been in the UFC since 2019. He hasn't lost, or he hasn't had dominant performances. But at the end of the day, 9-0. And he's in the top 5. Give him the next title shot, not this next guy who's been quacking about a title shot, which really triggers me. Yair Rodriguez, dude, what is this guy yapping about, talking about he deserves a title shot? Like, bro, sit down, shut up. You had 1 win in the last 2 years versus Patricio Pitbull, who came from Bellator, who's 37 years old, who has 43 MMA fights, and he literally just stood there in front of you and let you piece him up on the feet, and that's pretty much all that happened. Yair Rodriguez could not be further away from a title shot. He literally needs like 3 more wins for a title shot. I don't know what Yair Rodriguez is yapping about, talking about he wants the title next. Lil bro, nobody asked you what you wanted, bro. You're not Dana White, you're not Hunter Campbell or Sean Shelby or none of these guys. It's time to sit down, pack it up, and fight Diego Lopez at Noche, or you could fight John Silva, or you can fight Movsar, because Movsar is claiming that if Yair wants a title shot, then he can fight him for it. Either way, Yair Rodriguez, what is with the entitlement with these guys? You had a title shot against Volk. You got absolutely cooked and embarrassed, and now you want another one against Volkanovski with 1 win since then? No. Sit down, little bro. You're not anywhere near a title shot. I don't want to hear another yapping from Yair. Fight more than once a year. Earn your title shot and stop crying about it. That's it. Moving on to the next fighter on this list, Vinicius Oliveira. Listen, I think Vinicius Oliveira deserves a ranked opponent next. I know he only has, 3 wins in the UFC, but listen, he beat Bernardo Sapai, who's a solid win. He has a win over Ricky Simone, which is an amazing win. Ricky Simone is an underrated fighter, just knocked out Javi Basharat, and he has a win over Said Nurmagomedov. Listen, Said's no joke. He's not an easy guy to beat. So I think that Vinicius Oliveira, especially when you have guys like Kyler Phillips in the rankings and Ayman Zahabi and Montel Jackson, listen, if those guys can be in the rankings, I think that Vinicius Oliveira, with only 3 wins in the UFC, can get a title, not a title shot, can get a ranked opponent next because he's beaten good competition. He's impressive. He's has dangerous finisher, and he's exciting. So I don't see why this guy fighting into the rankings would be a crime. And I'd love to see this guy as a ranked fighter in 2025, 2026. So shout out to Vinicius Oliveira, one of my favorite fighters. Give him a ranked opponent next, and I don't think anybody would be mad about it. Moving on to the next fighter on this list, Kamaru Usman. I'm going to throw in the no title shot tier. Like, listen, it should be very obvious at this point that Kamaru Usman does not deserve a title shot. He hasn't fought since 2023. He hasn't had a win since 2021. But if you've watched the Pound for Pound podcast, which is hilarious because him and Henry Cejudo are combined 0-6 in their last 6, but they run a podcast dubbed the Pound for Pound podcast. Either way, Kamaru Usman, if you've watched this podcast, has slightly thrown hints that whenever he returns, he might deserve a title shot. Like, he hasn't outright said it, but he's hinted and pretty much insinuated it. And no, you need to sit down, little bro. I don't care if you're the second greatest welterweight of all time. I don't care if you have the second longest win streak of all time. At the end of the day, we're not living in peaches and creamville, little bro. We're in 2025 where you haven't had a win in 4 years and you haven't fought in a year and a half. No way this guy sniffs a title shot. He could go in both tiers of no title shot and fight down the rankings. But Kamaru Usman, I don't want to see this guy sniff a title. I want to see him sniff a win, and we haven't seen that out of him in 4 years. So Kamaru Usman needs to stop yapping it up with Henry Cejudo and get back in the octagon. Otherwise, it's time to put up or shut up. Moving on to the next fighter on this list, we got Colby Chaos Covington, and Colby just is embarrassing himself every single time you see him these days. He's He's one step away from retirement, talking about poker tournaments and still a 37-year-old man paying OnlyFans women in Miami to hang out with him. But either way, Colby Covington, it's time for this guy to fight down the rankings. Listen, I know he technically did whenever he fought Joaquin Buckley, but like, it's time for Colby Covington to fight a guy who's ranked like 15, 14, 13. That's what it's time for, because this guy hasn't had a win since 2022, and it was against Jorge Masvidal, who's retired. This guy hasn't had a ranked win, and I couldn't even tell you how long. He got destroyed by Joaquin Buckley. He took that fight on short notice, fair enough. But Colby Covington is a notorious ring squatter, and it's time for this guy to fight down the rankings. Honestly, for the rest of his career, I don't want to see Colby Covington fight another top 5 fight ever. This guy needs to fight down the rankings. He's been privileged. He has some of the most Dana White privilege in the UFC, and yeah, he's always yapping it up, always talking about how he's the biggest name in the welterweight division. If you're the biggest name in the welterweight division, why didn't you versus Masvidal sell over like, 400,000 buys? Like, where's the name value, brother? Also, why isn't anyone calling out Colby? Because he's not the biggest name in the division. Nobody cares about Colby Covington in 2025. It's time to fight down the rankings, little bro. That's it. Moving on to the next fighter on the list, we got Arman Tsarukyan. And listen, as recently I have gone out of my way to say that Arman Tsarukyan doesn't deserve a title shot because he pulled out on a day's notice and he hasn't fought in a year. But you know what? At the end of the day, if I'm going to say that Ilya deserves a title shot, I have to say that Arman deserves a title shot, because Arman actually has done work in lightweight. He's beat Charles Oliveira. He's beaten Beneil Dariush by KO. You know, he has great wins over Joe Alvarez, should have got a win over Gamrot. Arman Tsarukyan is undoubtedly the number one contender. And as much as I hate to reward guys that have pulled out on one day's notice and haven't fought in a year, him versus Islam is probably the most competitive fight at lightweight, and I want Islam's legacy to be legit. So yes, I do think that Arman Tsarukyan should fight for a title shot next. So I got to have him in the title shots here. A lot of people are going to disagree and say Ilya. It's kind of a toss-up for him and Ilya. People are going to argue that Ilya hasn't earned it because he hasn't fought at lightweight. But at the end of the day, this guy is a defending featherweight champion. He's pound for pound number 3, and he's undefeated. So you could argue Ilya deserves it as well, just off of the hype and skill he brings to the table. Nonetheless, let's get on to the next person on this list. We got Fakhretdinov. Ziam. Listen, people forget, man, the Smile Killer is on a 5-fight run, and he has wins over the GOAT Jamie Mullarkey, over the GOAT Luigi Vendramini, the guy that almost KO'd Patty. He has a win over Jai Herbert, Claudio Puelles, Matt Frevola, Mike Davis. This guy's on a run, on a 5-fight streak. He just beat Mike Davis, and he destroyed Matt Frevola. Listen, whenever Benoit St. Denis destroyed Matt Frevola, they threw him into the rankings, and he hasn't left the rankings yet. So I'd like to see the Smile Killer get a ranked opponent next. I think he's earned it, a 5-fight win streak over, I would say, respectable competition, and nobody's talking about Fakhretdinov, the French GOAT, getting a ranked opponent next, and I think he deserves one. Let's do like Fakhretdinov versus, I don't know, like the loser of BSD versus Joe Alvarez. You could do Fakhretdinov versus them, maybe like the ranked number 15 spot. Either way, I think he's earned it at this point. I wanted to see him versus Benoit St. Denis instead of Joe Alvarez, to be honest. Benoit St. Denis versus Fakhretdinov, French on French crime. I think he's earned a ranking spot. Either way, moving on to the next person that should fight down the rankings, we got Brian Ortega. Listen, Brian Ortega is kind of like another modern-day Colby Covington. This guy yaps it up. He fights once a year. He's had 2 title shots against Max and against Volkanovski. Got destroyed in both. And this guy just never fights. He had a good submission win over Yair, then he got destroyed by Lopez, and then we haven't seen him since. So it's like Brian Ortega takes off a year at a time, and then he gets a big matchup. No. It's time for Brian Ortega to fight a John Silva. It's time for Brian Ortega to fight a Lerone Murphy. You know, it's time for him to fight down the rankings. This guy's been given opportunity after opportunity, and he just, he's inactive, and he just doesn't show up a lot of the time. So Brian, low T-City, it's time to fight down the rankings, little bro. You don't deserve to fight up the rankings. You don't deserve a title shot. You don't deserve a number 1 contender fight. It's time for you to fight Lerone Murphy or John Silva, bro. That's that about him. Next up, we got Rinat Fakhretdinov. And as much as I hate that he got gifted a decision against Carlos Leal, listen, Rinat Fakhretdinov is 5-0 in the UFC. He's 33, so we don't have much time for Rinat Fakhretdinov to be a prospect anymore. He's Lerone Murphy max, and 33-year-old prospect, by the way. But either way, I want to see Rinat Fakhretdinov fight a ranked opponent next. Give him give him a Wonder Boy. Wonder Boy versus Rinat Fakhretdinov. Would he really smudge Wonder Boy? Either way, I'm ready to see this guy get fraud checked, because he got absolutely pieced up by Carlos Leal, and he got an early Christmas gift. because they gifted him a decision versus Liao in October where he got dominated all 3 rounds, and somehow all 3 judges saw the fight for him. I thought it was one of the biggest robberies that I've ever seen. But nonetheless, he has wins over Nicholas Dalby. Good win. Nicholas Dalby's an underrated, crafty vet. He has wins over Brian Battle, who in hindsight, that's a great win. A win over Kevin Lee, the GOAT. If you have a win over Kevin Lee, you're clearly championship material. So it's time to see what Renat Fakhretdinov is all about. Let's see this guy fight a ranked opponent. Listen, if Gilbert Burns loses to Michael Morales and he wants to keep fighting, let's do Gilbert Burns versus Renat Fakhretdinov. It's not like Renat wants to fight soon. This guy fights like once a year too, so another inactive Russian fighter. But either way, I do think it's time to see this guy versus a ranked opponent. Next up for a title shot, Alex Pereira. Listen, I shouldn't even have to put it in the video, but Alex Pereira is obviously the next up for the title at light heavyweight. He was a defending champion, 3-time defending champion in less than 6 months, and knocking everybody out at light heavyweight. Obviously, he ran into the brick wall that is Ankalaev, had a really close fight and dropped the decision. So anything else aside from Alex Pereira fighting for the belt next in a rematch against Ankalaev would it be absolutely criminal. He's earned it. He's one of the most active champions in recent UFC history. And he's one of the most dominant strikers in the upper weight classes we've ever seen. And he looked a bit flat in his last fight. So maybe you could drive the narrative that, listen, that wasn't the real Alex Pereira. That was him injured. That was him sick. You know, they said he had novavirus and he had a broken hand. You can put all that to rest by booking the rematch that he deserves against Ankalaev. And yeah, see who the winner is. I'm excited to see the rematch. I would favor Ankalaev in the rematch, being that Alex is getting older. You know, he's going to be getting slower. He's going to be picking up more injuries. So either way, anything besides him getting a title shot next is criminal. Moving on to another fighter that yapped about a title shot, Charles Oliveira. Listen, Charles Oliveira definitely has a sense of entitlement when it comes to title shots. If you listen to this guy's interviews, he's like, yeah, it's got to be me versus Islam next. Bro, no, and no. Bro, you beat Michael Chandler, who's ranked number 12 now and who's on a 3-fight losing streak, and you didn't even finish him, whereas Paddy Pimblett did. You also lost to Arman Tsarukyan. You got destroyed by Islam, and then you pulled out whenever you did have the opportunity to get the rematch with Islam. So no, absolutely not. Whenever they have Arman and Ilya at the top of the division, there's no way in heck that Charles Oliveira deserves to fight for the title. So pipe down low, bro. Let's see Charles versus Ilya or Charles versus Paddy. That's the next fight I want to see. And if he destroys either of those opponents, then yeah, I'd be like, yeah, dude, Charles just destroyed Paddy, just destroyed Ilya, both undefeated in the UFC. Let's see Charles get a title shot. But him yapping it up right now, Justin Gaethje, who's the next guy I'm going to talk about on this list, him or Charles shouldn't even be sniffing a title shot, especially Justin Gaethje, dude. The fact that Ali Abdelaziz is trying to go on Twitter and draw the narrative that Gaethje versus Islam is like a great fight because they're both exciting finishers. No, screw that, dude. If Islam fights Justin Gaethje, that is literally stat padding, and he would have a fake legacy, in my opinion. Justin Gaethje shouldn't even be talked about for a title shot. He's 0-2 in title fights. He got choked out in both. It's not like this is when Dustin Poirier got a title shot against Islam. There was nobody else available. Right now, we have other guys like an Arman Tsarukyan and like a Ilya Topuria, who's arguably, or not arguably, way more deserving than Justin Gaethje, who, by the way, got destroyed by Max Holloway, who came up a weight class, and then took an entire year off, and then struggled to beat a Rafael Fiziev on short notice, arguably lost that fight, and now he's yapping about a title shot. Listen, I know the Gaethje fans are like, dude, he's at the end of his career, let him get one more shot. No, if he wants another shot, he needs to get another win, or arguably 2 more wins. I don't want to see Justin Gaethje fight for a title anytime soon, so I don't know what he's yapping it up about. He's like, it's got to be me versus Islam. I only lost the exhibition match, and I won 3 out of my last 4. It's like, no, little bro, sit down. Your knockout versus Poirier was almost 2 years ago at this point. Your best win in the last 2 years is, outside of the Poirier fight, is Rafael Fiziev on short notice. So no. Justin Gaethje needs to fight maybe a Paddy Pimblett, and if he beats Paddy Pimblett, or Justin Gaethje needs to fight a Dan Hooker, and then maybe if he beats a Dan Hooker and then he gets another win, then we could talk about Justin Gaethje fighting for a title. I don't want to hear the sob story that he's older, he's 36 years old, give him his title shot. Dude, he's already had 2 title shots, and he got creamed in both of them. So no. Justin Gaethje and title shot go together like ketchup and cereal right now. I don't want to see it. Next up, the most deserving fighter in the entire UFC for a title shot, it's Tom Aspinall. Come on, dude. Who deserves a dang title shot more than Tom Aspinall? This guy's the interim champion, for crying out loud. He's beat every single fighter he's faced in the UFC and finished every single one he's faced in the UFC. Interim championship defense. He's literally defended his interim title while his duck of a champion of his division, John Jones, has went on a side quest to beat old man Stipe and is now ducking and dodging him. And we all know John Jones will not fight Tom Aspinall, so that's fine. Get John Jones out of the equation. He doesn't want to fight Tom Aspinall. He's just holding out so he can say he's the longest reigning heavyweight champion of all time. Then he's going to vacate the belt, and we can do Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane for the belt. We can see Tom Aspinall smoke Cyril Gane, and his legacy can start, and John Jones can stop being Dana's daddy and literally putting him through a humiliation ritual by letting John Jones run a circus around the UFC heavyweight division. Either way, I'm yapping it up over here. I do not want to see anything else at heavyweight outside of Tom Aspinall versus someone for the heavyweight championship. I don't care if it's John Jones. I don't care if it's the president. Whoever it's got to be, Tom Aspinall is the most deserving fighter in the entire UFC for a title. He should be the heavyweight champion right now, but Daddy Dana or Daddy Jones has been running around and controlling Dana White in the UFC, making an embarrassment of the UFC and the heavyweight division. So Tom Aspinall, it's a crime he hasn't fought for the belt. This guy's been interim champion for the longest of any other fighter in UFC history. And yeah, he won the interim belt back in November of 2023. And here we are in April of 2025, and this guy still hasn't got an undisputed title shot. So that is a crime. Give Tom Aspinall his title shot immediately. I'm tired of seeing him waste his prime sitting on the sideline waiting for John Jones. Moving on to the next fighter, Steve Garcia. People forget, man. Listen, Steve Garcia destroyed Chase Hooper, who's now on a 5-fight win streak. This guy's on a 5-fight finish streak. I think the record in the UFC is 7 finishes in a row by maybe like Chuck Liddell. So if this guy gets 3 more finishes in a row, we're looking at this guy breaking a record. Get this guy a ranked opponent. He finished Chase Hooper. He finished Shailene Nuerdanbiecki. He finished Chu Seung-woo, and he finished Cal Nelson. It's time. Listen, if we got guys like Calvin Kattar in the featherweight rankings, why isn't Steve Garcia fighting a ranked opponent? I know he was scheduled against Barboza, and I think Barboza got injured, so reschedule him against Calvin Kattar. Steve Garcia versus Calvin Kattar, perfect fight. Get this guy into the rankings. I think he's earned a ranked opponent. Listen, I'm all about finishes. You guys know that. If you have a guy outside the rankings finishing everybody, he's proving that he's better than that competition. He needs to step up. So give Steve Garcia his step up. I want to see him fight a top 15 fighter next. Whether it be Bryce Mitchell, Bryce Mitchell's not ranked anymore. But that wouldn't be a bad fight. Steve Garcia, Bryce Mitchell. But I want to see Steve Garcia versus Calvin Kattar, or Steve Garcia versus Giga Chikadze if he loses next. So yeah, give him a ranked opponent. He's earned it. Next up, no title shot. I mean, he's getting a title shot, but I'm going to put him in no title shot, even though he's getting one. Basically, what I'm saying is Sean O'Malley doesn't deserve a title shot. It's very obvious. This guy's got some of the most Dana White privilege we've ever seen. He literally lost to Merab in September, sat out with an injury, recovered from his injury, and Dana White's like, yeah, Merab wants to fight Sean. Sean wants to fight Merab. This is the fight to make. Sean's back. It's like, oh, yeah, dude. Yeah, Dana White can't even defend his title shot. At the last press conference they had at 316, when Sean O'Malley was literally being a doorknob, Dana White was pressed about Sean O'Malley's title shot, and Dana White's response, well, Sean's back. He didn't even have any justification because Sean O'Malley has gotten a whopping 0 wins since losing the title to Merab, and now he's getting an instant rematch for being a one-time defending champion. The Dana White privilege is real. No title shot for Sean O'Malley, but unfortunately I don't make the rules, so he will be getting a title shot, and I do think he's going to lose to the Georgian Machine once again. It's time for Alexander Rakic to fight down the rankings. Listen, Rakic is ranked number 6 at light heavyweight, and Rakic has not gotten a win, I believe, since 2021. He's on a 3-fight losing streak, and this guy gets top matchup after top matchup. He got a matchup against Yuri Prohaska. He got a matchup against Magomed Ankalaev. Like, who is Alexander Rakic sucking off behind the scenes to get these matchups? Because this guy is one of the most privileged fighters we've ever seen. He also had a matchup against Jan Blachowicz. He had a matchup against the GOAT Anthony Smith. But either way, it's time for Rakic to fight Dominic Reyes or fight someone down the rankings, fight Azamat Murzakanov, somebody, because this guy is on a 3-fight losing streak and he's a top 6 fighter at light heavyweight, making the division look bad. I do not want to see Rakic versus Yuri. I don't want to see him versus Jamal Hill. I don't want to see him versus Jan Blachowicz in a rematch. I don't want to see none of that nonsense. Him versus Dominic Reyes or another contender behind Dominic Reyes, because this guy, it's time for him to fight down the rankings. All he does is lose no matter what. Let's get on to another guy fighting down the rankings, Paulo Costa. Now, here's a fun fact about Paulo Costa. He's 1-4 in his last 5. His last win comes against Luke Rockhold in 2022. In fact, he does not have a win over any active UFC fighter, and somehow this guy is still ranked number 12 at middleweight. I think Paulo Costa needs to fight an unranked guy next. He should fight Ikram Aliskerov next. I think Ikram's fighting soon. If he wins, do Ikram versus Paulo Costa. They have beef, and I think Ikram with a win, I know he lost to Whitaker, but with the win, he would only have 1 loss in the UFC. Give him Paulo Costa, dude. Paulo Costa's, or if Bo Nickel beats Rainer de Ritter, do Bo Nickel versus Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa is another notorious rank squatter. This guy's been a top 10 fighter forever, despite being 1-4 in his last 5. So yeah, I don't want to see anything next for Paulo Costa outside of fighting down the rankings. He's number 12. He needs to fight number 13, 14, 15. Fight a jobber. Fight somebody. Get a win, low bro. You don't deserve anything. That's it. Next up, Nasruddin Imavov. Listen, we already know Khamzat's getting the shot next against Dricus. So next after that, Imavov has 100% earned his title shot. He just knocked out Israel Adesanya, who's a former 5-time middleweight champion and 2-time middleweight champion in terms of having the belt. He also beat up Brendan Allen. And listen, Nasruddin Imavov also gave Sean Strickland all he could handle, which was a great fight when you look back at it. And he also got a finish over Jerry Cannonier, which was very questionable. But he's finished Israel Adesanya, he's finished Jerry Cannonier, and he has a win over Brendan Allen. This guy has 3 top 10 wins. Nasruddin Imavov, after DDP and Chimaev settle their score, it's time for Nasruddin Imavov to get his title shot. Listen, as much as I can't stand his French smug face, there's no doubt that this guy has earned a title shot. He has 3 top 10 wins. And yeah, I don't want to see anything after DDP versus Khamzat that doesn't involve Nasruddin for a title is criminal. So yes, get this French man his title shot. And he could potentially be the first French champion. Who knows? Maybe this guy has the skills to beat Khamzat or DDP. I don't think so, but we're going to find out. Next up, Ludovic Klein. Get this guy a ranked lightweight opponent. Him and Ziam. I don't want to see him fight each other. I want to see them both get ranked opponents next. Ludovic Klein is on what, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fight unbeaten streak. He has a draw with Jai Herbert. Outside of that, he has a win over Ignacio Bahamondes, who was just in the rankings. He has a win over Roosevelt Roberts, a win over Thiago Moises, Mason Jones, Devontae Smith. He has some solid wins outside the rankings. This guy's on a 7-fight unbeaten streak. It's time for Ludovic Klein to get his respect. I think his record's like 23-4. So this guy's a super underrated prospect. He's been in the UFC for a while. He has 2 losses earlier in his UFC career, but since then, he has not lost a fight. So get my man Ludovic Klein a ranked opponent next. It could be Michael Chandler, or it could be anybody that's coming off a loss in the lower end of the rankings. Michael Chandler, Benoit Saint Denis, maybe even Hanato Moicano. Listen, no, I think they should reward Moicano for taking that Islam fighter 1 day's notice. But either way, I want to see Ludovic Klein fight into the rankings. A 23-4 record and a 7-fight unbeaten streak in the UFC is extremely impressive, and I think it's worthy of the rankings. I'm yapping it up, guys. My bad. Next up, Michael Chandler needs to absolutely fight down the rankings. Listen, our Michael Chandler has been giving every opportunity that we've ever seen. I know he just fought down the rankings in Patty, but I want to see Michael Chandler fight a relatively unknown name, not a Patty Pimblett who's a big hyped up star. I want to see Michael Chandler fight like a Fares Ziam or a Ludovic Klein or an Ignacio Bahamondes or, any of these guys, a Joe Alvarez if he beats a BSD. I want to see Michael Chandler fight an up-and-coming guy and not get another opportunity. Listen, he's at the end of his career. If he's not going to retire, it's time to put up or shut up. This guy has a 2-5 record in the UFC. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. He hasn't won a fight in 2 years. It's time for Michael Chandler, 2 things: to take a step down in competition because he can't handle the upper echelon, and for him to fight an unranked guy, in my opinion. Michael Chandler has been given more opportunities by the UFC than any other fighter from Bellator. So yeah, I don't want to see Michael Chandler fight any more exciting fights. No, it's time for Michael Chandler to give an up-and-comer an opportunity, and I stand by that. Next up, Israel Adesanya. I also want to see him fight down the rankings. He's 1-4 in his last 5. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. If Israel Adesanya wants to keep fighting, I don't want to see him versus Cal Barajo. No, that's still too close to the top 5. I don't want to see him versus, who else? Robert Whittaker again. I don't want to see him versus Marvin Vettori or any of those guys. No. I want to see Israel Adesanya versus a Roman Dolidze. Israel Adesanya versus Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. I want to see him versus one of those guys closer to the lower end of the top 10. He needs to step down in competition. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. He's clearly lost a step. And listen, man, Izzy has had plenty of opportunity to hold his spot in the top 5, and he's failed to do so. And he's still ranked number 4 at middleweight. So it's time for Izzy to give another guy an opportunity to come up off of his name because, yeah, he's had his title shot rematches. He's had his number 1 contenders fights over and over. He's had his gifted fights from Dana White in the UFC. It's time for Izzy to fight down the rankings. And last but not least, had to include him on this video. I don't know if you guys saw the interview recently. I think Lucas Tracy posted about it yesterday, but Ian Garry was yapping it up about how he was mad that the UFC didn't call him for a title shot versus Bilal Muhammad instead of Jack Dalla Maddalena or instead of Shavkat. Like, bro, first of all, who's Ian Garry's best win? Michael Venom Page, who is a Bellator fighter? Daniel Rodriguez? Listen, I know he was 8-0 in the UFC at one point, but it's like, dude, you're coming off a loss, granted a close fight against Shavkat. I understand you stepped up for the UFC, but bro, bro, it's 2025. We don't do title shots off of losses. No, and no. There's so many other guys deserving at welterweight. JDM, Shafkat. I would argue even Buckley deserves it over Ian Garry because he's been more active and he's been more dominant. And he's not coming off a loss. He's 6-0 at welterweight. So Ian Garry yapping it up about how the UFC should have called him for a title shot. No, no, and no. And even if he beats Prothas, no. Prothas is ranked number 13, little bro. You need to fight a guy ahead of you. And then fight a Usman, fight a Leon Edwards. And then maybe we can talk about a title shot. But what is up with all these guys? I had to make this video, guys. The real motivation for making this videos is we had so many guys yapping it up about I deserve a title shot. Yair Rodriguez, Kamaru Usman hinting at it. Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, all these guys yapping it up about title shot this, title shot that. No. What happened to earning a title shot? What happened to be... there are guys like Movsar, 9-fight win streak, no title shot. Guys like Arnold Allen, 10-0 in the UFC, no title shot. Tony Ferguson, 12-fight win streak, never fought for the undisputed belt. It's like guys have went on insane win streaks, and we have these guys like Yair Rodriguez coming off a 1 win against a Bellator fighter yapping about a title shot. It drives me crazy. Earn your title shot. Stop acting like a privileged little crybaby and saying, oh, dude, I think I deserve to fight for the belt next. No, you don't. So that's the video, guys. The most deserving and undeserving fighters in the UFC. Let me know what you guys think about it. Drop a comment, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'm out. Deuces.